Good evening, everyone. I have I'm sorry it's been a little while. I've been taking a little bit of time to rest since I was poorly with pancreatitis. I would like to just start by saying thank you very, very much to everyone. I've had so many messages and comments, sending love and, well wishes. So I'm so grateful for that. I really do love my community, all my supporters. I have a great, great community and I appreciate everyone. Thank you very much for taking time to just send some love. It has been really needed, and I'm very grateful. We've got a busy day tomorrow, so I wanted to catch up with this response from Melissa Nathan to Blake Lively's request for sanctions. Because tomorrow we've got motions for summary judgment. I think that's going to be from Wayfarer and from Lively. I'm pretty sure that doesn't include Stephanie Jones, because that is, although it's easy to forget, it is technically it is actually a separate lawsuit. So we've got the motions for summary judgment due tomorrow, along with the motions for Blake Lively's opposition to Wayfarer's motion for judgment on the pleadings. If you remember, she asked the judge at the hearing, she pretty much said, "Judge, I don't have time to meet the deadline. Can we extend it? Because there's just so much to do, and I just don't have time to respond to this." And the judge said, "Yeah, okay." And since then, she's done nothing but file for sanctions. So, clearly has time for that. I'm getting snarky already, so I'm going to be fun tomorrow. Tomorrow, these are very long motions. So I think the page limit for the summary judgment and the opposition is 60 pages. I am not going to do all of them in one video because that is just going to be a hellish long video. I have some people who love longer videos and I have some people who prefer the shorter ones. And I'm trying to create content that is, there's something for everyone. So I will do for each of the motions, each summary judgment and the opposition for on an individual, whereas which is just a read through and a bit of a reaction. And I like to comment anyway. So I'll throw in a bit of snark, or I'll say, well, that means this. That will be the full read through. But I will also do like an additional for each of them 20-minute summary for people who just want kind of overall, this is kind of the interesting points. This is, my thoughts. This is what this person has said. And hopefully then that will be something for everyone. Yeah. Okay. And we got a few things, actually. I'm just going to run through the deadlines of what we got coming up this month. So obviously we got tomorrow the summary judgment and the opposition for the motion on judgment on the pleadings. On Monday the 17th, Wayfarer are due to respond to the New York Times, their state court filing. And on Thursday the 20th, Wayfarer are due to respond to Lively's ridiculous motion for sanctions for the spoliation of evidence that does not exist. But she, in her dreams, and she is kind of conjured up, but yeah, it exists, but they deleted it because they use Signal. They're not allowed to use Signal. So that one, Wayfarer's response to that motion is due next Thursday, the 20th, so we'll cover that. Yeah, okay. So let's look at Melissa Nathan's response, and then we'll have a quick. I'm going to have a look at some of these text messages as well. I have not read any of this yet, so this is me reading it for the first time. I've obviously heard a bit about it, so I have an idea of like the text messages. I haven't read them myself, but I've seen what other people, small bits here and there, people have posted. Looks interesting. So we'll get into that now. Okay, Melissa Nathan. Plaintiff Blake Lively asks this court to impose monetary sanctions against defendant Melissa Nathan pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 37B2A for failing to provide unredacted copies of 38 documents in alleged violation of the court's August 27th order on Lively's omnibus motion to compel. Specifically, Lively ordered Nathan to reproduce the challenged documents without redactions within a week of the court's order and reimburse Miss Lively for the reasonable attorney's fees and expenses incurred by Miss Nathan's failure to comply with the order. As a footnote, is just to kind of say that while Lively is alleging that there are 39 documents on the list, Wayfarer actually point out that 2 of the documents are identical. Plaintiff's motions for sanction fails for the simple reason that it does not stem from the violation of any court order. The district court may impose sanctions under Rule 37B for non-compliance with a clearly articulated order of the court modify the redactions in their previous productions to replace black box redactions with text box redactions, indicating the reason for the redaction. So basically, they just had to, where they had plain black boxes against over text, they had to just put in their like redactions and then explain what the redaction was: privileged, non-responsive, etc., etc. Okay. It is undisputed that with that. On August 13th, before the court order deadline of September 2nd, the Wayfarer parties, including Nathan, reproduced all documents previously redacted in the properly required format, noting the reason for the redaction. And then they point to another mistake by Lively in the footnote. Lively states that the documents were reproduced on August 14th, but they were in fact produced a day earlier on August 13th. Lively argues that in addition to requiring the Wayfarer parties to reproduce redacted documents with a notation reflecting the reason for the redaction, the order also required Nathan to produce 38 documents without any redactions at all. But the order does not compel Nathan to remove the redactions on any of the documents she had previously produced, let alone require the production of the specific 38 documents Lively now seeks to compel in an unredacted format. There's another footnote. Indeed, 5 of the documents listed on Exhibit A in the declaration were produced for the first time after the court's August 27th order, and therefore necessarily could not be the subject of that order. Nor does the order state that any of Nathan's redactions were improperly overbroad. This is not surprising because Lively never made such argument, nor did she request that Nathan produce the 38 challenged documents without redactions in her omnibus motion to compel. Therefore, Lively's sanctions motion must be denied because there is no clearly articulated order of the court requiring specified discovery, which would permit the imposition of Rule 37B sanctions for non-compliance with that order. Lively's sanctions motions is a thinly disguised, untimely motion to compel. You know, they said the same thing about in their response to her request for Jamie Heath to be sanctioned as well. In Lively's own words, it is well settled that the operative time to raise and move on discovery issues is before the close of fact discovery. Plaintiff's motion to compel was filed on April 27th. Sorry, wrong bit. The court's deadline for close of discovery had been clearly set as September 30th, 2025. Lively first raised the issue regarding Nathan's redactions on September 23rd, over a month after Nathan's documents had been reproduced. With the proper notations. While Lively agreed to identify which of the 38 documents had allegedly been produced by third parties in an unredacted form, she did not attempt to do so until October 16th. She then proceeded to file this motion a month after the close of fact discovery, fashioning it as a sanctions motion, attempting to avoid the untimeliness of her motion to compel. Even if the court were to consider the substance of Lively's motion to compel, it should be denied. Pursuant to the joint stipulation on the protocol for discovery of electronically stored information and hard copy documents, Nathan redacted non-responsive material from documents including those related to her other public relations clients and her personal life. Lively has not demonstrated that the redactions on the 38 challenged documents were overbroad, or, if they were, that the entire document must be produced without redactions. Lively cherry-picked some of the 38 challenged documents she contends demonstrate that the redactions somehow deprived Ms. Lively of relevant and responsive material necessary for Ms. Lively to prosecute her claims. Lively's selections prove the opposite. Lively's primary claim is that Nathan improperly redacted information regarding the digital campaign in the document Bates labeled Nathan 00000885. But Lively neglects to mention that the same document originally produced on July 16th was reproduced by Nathan on August 22nd without any redactions. Lively also fails to disclose that the same document was produced without redactions by Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, and Jen Abel as early as July 16th. In addition, Lively herself produced the same document without redactions because it had been subpoenaed by her company Van Zandt from JonesWorks before she filed her lawsuit against the Wayfarer parties. Similarly, Lively also misleadingly asserts that Nathan's phone records were improperly redacted, ignoring the later reproduction of an unredacted set. Nathan's phone records from May 1st, 2024 to February 18th, 2025 were produced as required by the order. All redactions were removed from Nathan's phone records and reproduced by September 11th. Regardless of whether Nathan personally produced an unredacted version of a document bearing her Bates number prefix, if an unredacted version of a document was produced in the litigation by anyone, Lively reasonably cannot argue that she was deprived of critical evidence. That's fair. That's a fair point. Lively's argument that some of the other documents on her list are essentially unreadable is also unpersuasive. Lively's argument is based on a mischaracterization of Nathan's deposition testimony about one of the documents. When pressed by Lively's counsel, Nathan Nathan merely admitted that, as with all redacted documents, including those produced by Lively, it is possible that it might be a little bit easier to read if the document had not been redacted. Importantly, Lively does not argue, nor is it the case that she was unable to question Nathan about the unredacted and only responsive portion of the sole document she claims was unreadable. For the foregoing reasons, defendant Melissa Nathan respectfully requests that the court enter an order denying Lively's motion in its entirety. Okay, so let's... All right, okay. I'm not going to go through the declaration or the emails, not right now. I'll have a look at them later, and if needs be, I might do something separate. Okay, so it's just, let's see. I mean, someone at the top is saying, what the hell is this, really, Sony? But we don't have the context. Okay, so something to do with the Hollywood Reporter article. This is all wrong, and they didn't buy the rights to produce the film. Oh, so did Sony lie that they bought the rights to the film? Sounds like they did. They didn't produce the film. This is a blatant lie about her advance in domestic violence conversations. Oh yeah, she definitely didn't. Oh, right, okay. I remember this whole so the CEO of Sony, Tony Vinciquerra, I may have butchered that. He's no longer there now. He left, resigned, went somewhere, or retired. Very soon after he put this statement in the Hollywood Reporter. But he was on about I've made snarky comments about this before, about how she loves working with Blake and wants to do 12 more movies with her. I think, when I went over, I think it might be my last video actually, when I was going over how much money she was looking for, her financial breakdown in her third initial disclosure. And I was kind of snarking a little bit at the lost work. And then I was like, yeah, but I thought Sony wanted to do 12 more films with you. And then the guy quit his job, or he was retiring or something. He's no longer there. And I think I made a dig at it then. Jen Abel, this is complete bullshit. We were learning about it. Wow. Hi, I'm Sony, and I'm going to cozy up to Ryan and erase Justin. That really did feel like that's what happened. It feels like every single person who worked on that film, well, the cast, I mean, and some of the people behind the scenes definitely did do that. Like the fans handle, I guess, it's just crazy. Sony has no spine. Yep, I agree with that. Okay. So they're talking about setting up a call and everything, love each other, blah, blah, blah. So, Jamie. And this is quite a nice, this is a nice message from Jamie in response to that. Well, he's pretty much saying, look, it's not nice, it's not perfect, there's misinformation, but you know what? They're not taking shots at us. Let them praise her. It's clearly no smear campaign going on here. And who knows, maybe Blake and Ryan forced Sony to put something out on their behalf. Well, you've seen all the things that Brendan Sklenar and Isabella Ferrer had Colleen Hoover, her career's had a boost. Taylor Swift was threatened with extortion if she didn't put something out. Wayfarer themselves had something put under their noses and were told to put it out or the gloves will come off. So I can see that. Sony's job is to promote the movie and make as much money as they can. That's the only reason we're partnered with them. Yeah, that's fair. I like this because you've seen them, like in real time, because this is obviously dated the 15th of August, and in real time, they were taking the high road. So that's good. And Jen loved that. That's nice. So, and again, someone here is asking, are we doing anything to influence this stuff, or is this real people helping and coming to my defense? And Jennifer Abel's come back and said, no bots, no fake accounts, none of that. Real people coming to your defense. Trust. It's astounding to see the enormous outpouring of support, but it's 100% real. That's lovely. These stories are making her look even more unhinged. And you see this comment here, I'm a little more concerned about these TikToks claiming they know information, and there are some dark, disturbing stories about me that are going to break as they get in DMs. And that's the only way that would be happening if there are lies. I mean, we're just seeing here, like them all saying there's no bots, there's no, fake accounts, this is not us. People are genuinely coming out in support of Justin. People are genuinely criticizing Lively. And the only one smearing anyone is Lively. Oh. Emily wanted to go and have tea and a croissant at the Duchess. Oh. Okay. I'm just flicking through now to see if there's anything important now. This text message here now, because I'm obviously following, I've done a lot on the Travis Flores case, from a few years back against Wayfarer, where Travis Flores settled with another person called Caleb Remington, but voluntarily dismissed his lawsuit against Wayfarer, Justin Baldoni, etc. Sadly, Travis Flores passed away last year from complications of cystic fibrosis, but his widow is suing Brian Friedman and Friedman's law firm. And one of the things he says in there, because I say quite often, there are many people with cystic fibrosis who have to live that life, who are kind of part of the inspiration or the consultation into the film. It is not that much of a stretch to think that Travis Flores, who goes having similar experiences and would have had to, take the same precautions, would have written a story very similar to 5 Feet Apart. I think Caleb Remington did see Travis Flores' script, and then he was hired, unbeknownst to Justin Baldoni, that he did not know that he had viewed the script. But Justin Baldoni hired Caleb Remington, who also has cystic fibrosis, to consult on the film. And that is why I think Caleb Remington just went with the settlement. He was also very unwell, dealing with cystic fibrosis. Travis Flores was, obviously very unwell. But the other person who the film was inspired by the story of another cystic fibrosis sufferer called Claire Wineland. And we've got a message at the top here, and I'm just picking this out because it's interesting. Now, Travis Flores' widow claims that there are messages from Claire Wineland's family who, say that the film had nothing to do with Claire Wineland. Here, we've got Claire Wineland's mom messaging. I don't know who this particular person is, Henny Grace. I don't know who that is in terms of, does she work for TAG? Does she work for Wayfarer, etc.? But she's clearly, offering help. Claire Wineland's mum was messaging, I presume it's Wayfarer, offering, hi, is there anything we can do at Claire's place to help? Clearly has a good relationship. And I just find that interesting because of the allegations being made by Travis Flores' widow against Brian Friedman, and specifically in relation to, how much of the film 5 Feet Apart was inspired by Claire Wineland. Okay, so here's a message. Colleen Hoover looks like texted. Can someone please send Jamie the actual context of what I said so he can respond to Colleen? This should be on video recorded from the wrap. I never said I changed his fate. I said I didn't want to see him at the end of the movie as it was too complicated to explain how he was co-parenting and would draw too many people in, and she agreed. This has nothing to do with the book, and we don't control the wrap and their headlines. Just as we don't control all the negative and untrue things she and Blake have been saying about me and the controversy they created. We haven't leaked anything, and we've taken the high road the whole time, even after she betrayed me and ghosted me. Henny Grace. I feel like I know that name. Is that like a pseudonym? Is that a name that Justin Baldoni uses? I don't know. So it looks like she's referring to an article about saying that, I think it looks like Justin Baldoni, there's an article about why Justin Baldoni changed Ryle's fate. And Colleen Hoover has sent it to Jamie Heath, and there's someone else in that chat. I would have thought that would be Justin Baldoni. This is a lie. Please delete it. It does nothing but fuel the fire of what they're saying about me. If this were true, you wouldn't have asked me numerous times about Raoul's role in book 2. I've kept quiet, but this is just mean. Jamie and I spoke. They're deleting the post. Take this opportunity to this opportunity, open up the dialogue with her. Apologize, communicate that if you read the interview, it doesn't mean he's cut out the sequel, but it was the decision of how to end the film. You explain it all in quotes within. Use this opportunity to connect with her and commiserate with what she's going through and how much you care about her. And how that hasn't changed even when she turned her back on you and left you to fend for yourself. She's getting a ton of hate and backlash from the DB community. You can say you've done nothing but honor her and her book and you want to have a conversation and you miss the relationship you had, blah, blah. Yeah, I think I've seen these texts, but they've got Justin Baldoni's name in other people's versions. Okay. So I'm sorry, landed me in the hospital. Yeah, so this is Justin Baldoni. I'm sorry, I don't have the capacity just right now in this moment to be the bigger person and do that. You have to remember that it was her betrayal that landed me in the hospital. It's been devastating to me. This message makes my blood boil. And then Justin goes on, I'm going to dictate something. Jamie, add this to your text message back to her in any part that you want. But this is just what I need to say. Justin is not out to hurt anybody. And there hasn't been one lie that's come out of his mouth. All he's been doing is singing the praises of you and everyone else and sticking to the message of the movie, which you knew he cared about from the beginning. He asked you about the second book to understand the trajectory of Raoul's character as he was developing the script, which you also understood as he included you on that decision. The above headline is taken completely out of context, but that is not our doing, as there is a PR war going on, and we are the ones that are not leaking anything or trying to destroy anyone. This entire situation was set up to be a smear campaign against Justin, and it clearly backfired. Justin didn't want any of this, as he's loved and adored you for 5 years. If you actually read the interview, you'll see he says exactly as it happened, which was a decision that you also supported. It had nothing to do with the second book, or not wanting to be part of it as an actor, or changing Raoul's fate. It had everything to do with, after seeing an edit of the movie, realizing that we did not need to open up a can of worms and show an abuser co-parenting without showing all of the necessary work that had to happen to make that possible. You also know this as he involved you every step of the way. Wayfarer is also not talking and are not firing back. We are continually speaking highly of everyone. We did not ask to be in this situation. This was all created and could have easily been avoided. Okay. And Jamie says he didn't see the response and he's already replied. And Justin says he thinks the response is too nice and he's a bit frustrated, but he understands the game that's being played. Sorry about the background noise. I have a little baby in the next room who's crying. And we're all pretty much saying to Justin to, not respond from the heart and just to you know. Yeah. Okay, so and Jamie Heath makes a good point here. Assume that Blake, like he's referring to any response on Justin, assume that Blake will see it. Assume that she would leak it. It should only be loving remarks, but I do think you should follow up to my message. So here's a message Justin sent to Colleen Hoover. Colleen, I'm sorry that you are hurting. I want you to know that there has not been one lie that's come out of my mouth or one bad word spoken about any of you. I'm also not talking about my experience. I've been sticking to the message of the movie, which you know I cared deeply about from the beginning. The headline is taken out of context, which you will see from the interview. I spoke about this multiple times, and they also don't include everything I say, none of which has anything to do with changing his trajectory in the second book, which I, of course, asked about multiple times to understand where the story goes. You supported my decision to remove him from the end. We do not control the headlines. Since this is the first time I've heard from you, I just want you to know that I have cared for you for the past 5 years, and that hasn't changed. Right, okay. It looks like Justin then copies a response back he's had Colleen. It just feels like being directed at me. You guys posting that article and allowing it to fuel the comments is hurtful, and the timing of it is and the timing of it feels like you're worried. I know things took an awful turn and I felt forced to choose when I did not want to, but the back and forth articles from both camps are just so upsetting and ridiculous. It's making everyone working on this movie look immature. Everyone is out there trying to save themselves, and now this has turned into a huge mess. And I know you guys think I've made decisions for certain reasons, because you probably have, but I have felt the rift from long before I was ever in contact with Blake. It started with me not being allowed to read the script until I was sat with readers, but then all the interviews made it sound like you included me in the script from the beginning. Then the whole documentary thing where I said no so very many times, and the book when I asked you guys to at least donate a portion of the proceeds to DV, and when I was told the only way a donation would be made is if I took 1% and donated that myself. I bet that turns out to be they give her 1% to donate. I bet it's because I don't that the way that's written doesn't even sound bad. She's making it sound bad, but it doesn't sound bad. You take 1% of the proceeds of the film and give it to a charity. That 1% was a lot of money. It was like 1% of like $340 million. Then the whole tattoo thing, all the texts of you blaming Blake for that and reiterating that she didn't read the book every time I tried to ask you what to say to readers. Or she didn't read the book. I've been disappointed personally by your actions many times. I appreciate that you haven't directly said anything negative. That's how it should be. But you are grown men with a platform. You know how to use it to protect your image. Please don't continue to use it to harm me or mine. That's all I'm asking. It looks like then Justin gets screenshots of messages. I'm not going to read them all, but it looks like these are sort of clapbacks. You know, like, oh, well, here's where we talk. Like this top one is where she's asking about things she can put in the script, and he's enthusiastically, yeah, please give me notes. I'm so happy to hear this. And yeah, you can knock out the video. I can't read it, it is a bit blurry. I mean, he sounds very enthusiastic, so. Oh, he's in messages where he's clearly saying, here you go, new draft just came in, we'll keep you posted. Okay, yeah, these are messages. So these are essentially messages where they are clearly talking about stuff, like some ideas and thoughts and the reason why she wrote things a certain way and why she wants that reflected in the script. So it looked like they were originally, Wayfarer had proposed. I've seen a few people think that Atlas was originally going to be African American. That's how he was written in the book. That's not how I'm reading these messages. It sounds like Colleen Hoover is responding to Wayfarer suggesting that Atlas is African American. Because just saying the word in here, one small thing is the restaurant name, Roots. If we're going to make Atlas African American, which I love, I think Roots being such an important movie in African American history sort of leaves a bad impression when we find out he named his restaurant after a girl rather than it being tied to culture. I grew up watching Roots, so maybe we can pick another name with as much meaning. And I don't know what happened, obviously, because they changed the name of the restaurant. The restaurant wasn't called Roots. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. Off the top of my head, I read the book, unlike Blake Lively, but I cannot remember off the top of my head what the original. Oh, I'm going to have to go and find it. That's going to annoy me now. No, it was Bibs. Bibs. Right. So the in the book, the Atlas's restaurant is called Bibs, and they've changed it to Roots in the film. And I suspect that may have been because with the thought process of Atlas being African American, and that sounds like it may have been a Wayfarer idea. Now, I don't know why that didn't pan out for whatever reason. Obviously, we ended up with Brandon Sklenar, who's absolutely not African American. And the restaurant kept the name Roots. And then that was incorporated into, it was based because there was a tree. The restaurant was built around a tree. But I mean, what this says to me is they were absolutely talking to Colleen Hoover and involving her in loads of stuff. Okay. So this is about the heart design. Obviously, the heart was famously an incomplete heart. There was a gap at the top. when you just think about the message, right, that Colin Hoover just responded to Justin Baldoni's kind message with, well, it was everything you said about the heart, blah, 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 and, you know, and all the blame that you put on Blake for that, etc., right? And then you've got the messages here where they're actually discussing that, right? And I mean, she says, well, when I asked you what I should say, you just blamed Blake and, you know, said that's what happens when people don't read the book. What he actually says to her to say to people about the design of the heart is that it's temporary, and when it's finished, it will look like it's supposed to. And it looks like they're spending $100,000 on it. He does take a shot at Blake. He does mention that, you know, Blake didn't read the book. So, but it's a bit misleading that she says, well, I asked you what to say and all you did was throw shade at Blake. No, he did tell her what to say. She's just being a bit selective there. But at the end of the day, Blake changed everything else. So if she changed the design, then I don't understand why Colleen Hoover's complaining. And also in this text message, she literally says it's such a minor detail. Right, still looking. Well, here's the message from Isabella Ferrer. And Justin Baldoni points out that, you know, in July, she sent him this lovely message about how great it was working with him and thanking him. And a month later, she won't even say his name. It's such a shame that it got to this. It's such a shame that people treat other people like that. Oh, in other news, this is from Justin Baldoni. Ryan unblocked me and Emily so he could spy on us. She had a feeling and checked, and she could see his name, and then I checked, and I could search him as well. I couldn't search him a week ago. Okay, so it sounds like then Justin put together another response by Colleen Hoover, and Jamie sort of said, well, let's take some bits out, which is as good. It's a good friendship, you know, when you've got someone who's responding, and what they're responding with how they feel from their heart, and you've got the friend who's sort of sitting there reading it, you know, from the kind of with objective eyes and sort of saying, look, let's take this out because it'll only be used against you, or it's a bit too much about you. It shouldn't be about you. And I appreciate Jamie Heath for that. That's awesome. Alex Sachs actually reposted Justin Baldoni's post, which is, I find that curious because when I did a deep dive on Alex Sachs, who's got a bit of a history, by the way, of she has previously, when she worked on the Florida Project, she worked with a producer who was accused of sexual harassment, I think, or sexual assault, one of the two. He was accused by multiple women. She didn't do anything until she was put under enough pressure, and then when she did react, she took sole ownership of their production studios. So there's now same things happened to Justin Baldoni. She hasn't taken anything production studio wise, but I do wonder what she's taken from Blake Lively, because when I actually included a link to one of the very rare interviews that she did, very in depth one, and any time a question was asked about Justin, she swerved it. She pretty much did not say his name. Everything was all about Blake, about Colleen, about it was someone else. Christy Hall, the screenwriter. It was all about them. So I am curious that Alex Sachs in the middle of August was still following and reposting Justin Baldoni's stuff. Actually, I will just quickly have a look. That interview with Alex Sachs was 2 weeks after that post. This was the 31st of August. And I'll just give you one example. If I can find a question. Justin handles these themes with so much sensitivity. What qualities did he bring to this production that showed he was the right person to bring the story from page to screen? That question is specifically targeted to what about Justin? What makes him the right person? What qualities did he bring, right? The first line. There was a painstaking amount of thought and consideration and consultation from our female screenwriter Christy Hall and Colleen and Blake and myself. The only there was very little talk of Justin. She talks about how she had a general meeting with Justin in 2019. And then, she said, there's no clear answer to your question, because for me, my entire experience with Justin has felt so deeply interwoven with the themes of the book. Interwoven with the themes of the book. Bear in mind, the book is DB. And the project himself. Him telling the story has always made sense to me because of that. And then one other question about Justin. How did you, Colleen, and Justin try to surprise people who had already had a relationship with the story? Colleen was very involved. I have never worked on a project where every department and individual involved were so consistently asking each other, what would the fans think of this? We would call Colleen often and ask her if a tiny change we made to her original story made emotional and narrative sense to her, or if she imagined that Lily Bloom would look the way she did. Staying true to the story was always on our minds. So, firstly, absolutely no mention of Justin. Secondly, that answer completely contradicts what Colleen Hoover says about Justin not including her in the script. I just felt that was kind of, it was interesting to get a perspective here. I think The text message was very carefully crafted. So now, look, we've got it in evidence. It's going to be produced. Oh, Colleen says all of this about you. Look, she was saying that. So I do think this was a collusion. Okay, so it looks like Justin responded to Colleen Hoover. Feeling alone on an island is just terrible. I want you to know with all sincerity that my team hasn't engaged in anything that would harm you, and they have not contributed to any negative stories. My heart breaks when I think about the distance that has grown between us, especially when I always valued our collaboration and friendship so deeply. I know a lot has happened since we first worked on the script together, and you feel as though you weren't included before the fan reading. As an effort to remind you, we sent you the script beforehand in July of 2022, where you responded with such positivity, noting how pleased you were that it stayed true to the book, and you even shared your notes with me. You even got to read it before I did. I'm happy to share those screenshots if you'd like. Right. Like I say, I hadn't read all of these before now. So she has tried to say, you cut me out until, the script was already written, blah, blah, blah. And he's gone back and gone, well, no, actually, you got to read the script before I did. I've got your notes. Would you like me to refresh your memory with the screenshots? Love it. Awesome. Awesome. Regarding the documentary, I want you to know that while Jamie may have tried to ease some of your concerns regarding being on camera, he and Wayfair always intended to respect your wishes, which is why we never moved forward. It was only an idea meant to bring fans closer to a story that means so much to many. Once you shared your feelings and anxiety about being on camera, he completely understood and we immediately killed the idea. She had no problem being on camera during Book Bonanza and all the various interviews with Blake Lively. Either that or she had no choice and didn't back down as quickly as Wayfarer did. Regarding the copybook donation, legally Wayfarer couldn't donate the 1% on your half as you graciously requested. It wasn't a demand from us, but a legal requirement we were asked to relay. As for the tattoo, I'm so glad you pointed out the importance of it to the fans and the DB community while we were in the edit. We were more than happy to change it in post, and the film is better for it. I'm grateful for your insight. I completely own that I vented about many things regarding production and the post process, and I can fully understand how that could have been a load too heavy to carry. Please know that my door is always open to you. I truly hope we can talk and rebuild our friendship. This isn't about any image for me, it's about reconnecting with someone I care about deeply. I hope this might be a step towards healing and celebrating this film together. And Jen Abel suggests toning it down, but we don't get to see whether it was toned down or not. See, if it was me, I would be quite bloody minded. I'd be like Justin Baldoni, you're like, well, no, actually, that's not what happened. Here's the evidence. I'm just going through to see if there's anything different. No, these look like the same ones. I'm just going to fast scroll, check. Yeah, they're the same messages. I'm guessing that these are just the same messages over and over again coming from different people. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like we've done that. That was an interesting read. That was really insightful as well. I am glad that he was drafting the response and had all those screenshots and he put it in his in a group chat with his team, because even if they didn't go back and refute what was said with the evidence, you know, we are all able to look at that now and see for ourselves what happened. So, and we can see that, you know, what Colleen Hoover is saying is not quite true. That's just awful. But it's not surprising, unfortunately. It's not surprising. I think he was trying to still pander to her, even, you know, even after he'd been in hospital because, you know, he was so hurt by her betrayal. There was this clearly shows that there was no smear campaign. And it's just absolutely awful how manipulative Blake Lively really is. So, and this whole thing as well about Ryan Reynolds blocking and then unblocking to spy. This is not the first time I've heard him doing that. He did that to Brett and Aiko too. So I'm not shocked by this. I think Ryan Reynolds is definitely very much in the thick of all of this. And it's not something that Blake Lively on her own would have pulled off. She probably tried to take over the movie, but the absolute shit show and carnage that happened after that to save face, that's got Ryan Reynolds' name written all over it. I'm absolutely convinced. Anyway, I will be back tomorrow for all the big motions. For the people who follow me for the Ian Watkins murder, there is a hearing tomorrow, so I'm going to hopefully do something on that. And there's been so much happening in the UK with, you know, stabbings and the BBC scandal, and we've got a new court ruling that, you know, people are able, you know, that's basically given a bit of a breath of oxygen into what was our dying right to free speech. So things are starting to, some common sense is now coming out of the courts a little bit, which is much needed. There was a train as well where 10 people were stabbed, which is absolutely terrifying because my own daughter was supposed to be on that train. So that one really hit hard home. So I've got a lot to do, and I think I'm just going to do one kind of summary video of what the hell's going on in the UK, because country's in a mess. It needs to be covered still. But as always, this case just goes at a ridiculous pace. It never stops, and it is taking up a lot of my time. I'll be back for the motions videos tomorrow. There will be quite a few, so I apologize for anyone who gets multiple notifications. But I think it's the most sensible way of doing it. All right. Thank you for listening, and I will be back tomorrow.